Now, it's not often that we get a girl from Adelaide and a girl from Auckland together, but today I am talking to the one and only Rachel Berry from Ray White Mount Eden in New Zealand. She's an industry leader and a powerhouse in the New Zealand real estate market. We're going to hear about her life, her career journey over the last 9 years since she's worked in real estate, and how she's navigated one of the toughest markets that we've seen in recent years. Rachel, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Such a wonderful opportunity to get to sit down and talk to you. I've admired you from afar for so long. You are one of our best, our top performing agents in New Zealand, and an auction leader. You've taken out #1 auction agent for New Zealand in the past. Before we get into your story, can you just explain to everyone listening where you live, where you sell, the type of property and the marketplace you lead there?
I live in Auckland in New Zealand, and although I'm based out of the Mount Eden office, I don't actually sell particularly in that suburb. 75% of what I sell is in my local community, which is Mount Albert.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is a home? Do you sell units? Is it investor, owner occupied? What is the demographic?
I tend to sell everything.
Okay.
But probably my main demographic is the character bungalow, families, families moving from their little 3-bed, 1-bath, taking that next step up, to that next property. So that's really the bulk of what I sell. And
what is the price? If I wanted a nice family home in Mount Albert, what would that set me back?
A nice family home would set you back between 2.5 and 3.5.
Okay.
Yep. And my average sale price is 2 million.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So then there's the ones trading up and normally selling for about 1.8 and topping up into that mid to late 2 bracket.
I think it'd be remiss if we don't start with the real tumultuous period that most Kiwis have been through during, but really post-COVID. We know that your economy was really bashed around, but particularly the property sector took a real beating. Do you want to just talk about, the highs when we were all booming and just how sharply that came off and the types of adjustment in pricing that you had during that period?
Yeah, the property market's always very interesting, and coming off post-COVID from 2 years in a row, I sold every single property under the hammer bar 2.
Wow.
And at that time I think I did my biggest year and I was number 5 in New Zealand, and
that was the 21-22 financial year.
Yeah. So at the end of 2021, I think it was the 23rd of November week, because my parents sold their house that week, the first time they've ever had luck with a property, and the triple CFA was announced, and the market literally fell off a cliff. We were standing there going, what do we do?
Just no buyers.
And no one bidding. No one could get finance. No one, we're ringing the brokers being like, what's going on here? And so then we went into the following year, unarmed actually. And I guess probably something that I've always been is very straight. So just telling vendors exactly how it was, not being able to promise, but all of our appraisals in 2022 were out the gate.
Yeah.
Because we just couldn't keep up with the month after month of falling prices.
Yeah.
So we had to work harder. I mean, we always work hard, but we've had to work harder, put more in, find out ways to make sure our vendors are happy regardless of the price, helping them to get out of the situation that they're in.
Because it's kind of, it's an easy trap to fall into, isn't it? Where as everything's got climbing and you're just getting a new record price and unsurpassed, and everyone's expectations are just blown away positively, it's easy to hook into that, isn't it? And that becomes your marketing platform, and we're talking about it to everyone. And to then have to switch 180 and go, oh, now we have to make you be happy with the sale, even though you'd be quite unhappy with the price.
Totally.
It's like remembering all of that stuff again.
Yeah, that's right. And vendor testimonials, client, customer service, making sure we're getting 10 out of 10 on the NPS. Like you say, we were street records and like best in the area, days on market, sold in 5 days. And then, so moving to a different mold where days on market were longer, etc., but never shied away from the auction process.
Okay.
Actually.
Yeah. That was your mainstay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the market's starting to be a bit more balanced, but it's still pretty tough.
It's very tough.
Yeah. Okay.
although I would have to say the constant tweaks we make, you know, in our business, and I say our because I work in a team, that our days on market are still coming down because we're trying to constantly refine what we're doing. The good properties in any market will always sell well, and they continue to sell well, and they give us the moments of joy.
Yeah,
to just
a little reprieve.
A little reprieve, but we are straight back into the grind. Like, we
Right.
don't celebrate those, you know, too much, because
Yes.
it's like we all accept it is what it is. It was a great property, the price was right, everything. If they could all be like that, they'd all fly out the door.
Yeah.
But no, back into the grind, back into trying to get them done.
And what's really interesting as well about your business, so we said that 21-22 financial year was your top year GCI, but your business has sat between 65 and 70 sales for the last 3-4 financial years.
Yeah.
Now, what we saw post that boom year, we saw a lot of agents come back, and particularly a lot of agents in New Zealand. I spoke to people at our Premier conference saying, I was $1 million agent 2 years ago, and now I'm struggling to do 400.
Yeah.
How do you think you've managed to keep turning over the business when you would have seen so many around you just fall away?
Consistency. Just being consistent about everything you do. I think a lot of agents got caught up potentially like on the high that everything was easy, didn't have good systems and processes in place. We utilised COVID to create the most incredible systems and processes, which we've never faltered from. So whether we're in a hot market or a hot property or a really tough property, the process is the same.
Great.
Same for value, everything. If it's the $700,000 unit or a $5 million home, the process is the same. So not deviating from that, but digging deeper, increasing resource. So not shying away because the market's tough, like going in deeper. And I actually remember being at a Macca session, and he said to everyone who's looking at employing someone else, and we couldn't really afford to, but I put up my hand because we were literally looking to get someone else. You know?
Because it's funny, what many agents did is like, okay, so it's harder, we're making less sales, I'm gonna cut down my resources and my spending. Whereas what you've just said is actually to create the same amount of sales, you need to do more.
Yeah.
So you need more resourcing.
Yeah.
So you actually leaned into that.
Yeah.
Which is why your business is still going strong, and
Yeah.
you've really just held.
Yeah.
And hopefully on track to have maybe a PB year this year.
Well,
We'll
I hope
see.
so.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't get too wrapped up in that, to be
Yep.
honest, because my work-life balance is really important.
Okay.
So it is kind of important because I'm so internally competitive,
Mhm.
but to a point, like I'm not going to sacrifice my family just
Okay.
for an award. Yeah.
That's so interesting, because this business will take everything you have if you let it.
Yeah.
I know you started your career in real estate after children.
Yes.
So 9 years in real estate.
Yeah.
And you said to me that you wanted to get your youngest to the age of 5
Yeah.
before you started. So you
Yeah.
committed to that and you saw that through.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to get into real estate?
I thought it would be flexible,
Mhm.
and which I mean it is.
Yeah.
I thought that it would just be a good way to be busy during the day around school hours. It was fine to work at the weekends because my husband would be at home, and I didn't feel like I would be sacrificing too much
Yeah.
time with the kids. And then just, you know, that things took off relatively quickly.
Yeah, because you thought it would be like, I'll do 10 sales a year.
10 sales, it's
That'll be
always
easy.
been my goal. 10
Part-time,
every year.
around the kids.
Yeah.
How quickly did it take you to surpass that ambition?
Well, I mean, it's a great time for actually me to introduce John Kovich, who is a bit of an industry legend. And after I had done real estate for a year, and he asked me all of that first year if I'd work with him, his wife identified I'd probably be like a good succession plan for him. And I kept saying no because I wanted to prove it to myself. I never wanted to be in someone else's shadow, and that's a me thing. But working with him was amazing. He is, from a compliance perspective, just a great guy, like really great guy, who's now retired and has been retired for the past year, but is still someone I ring, you know, most days. But working together partnership was great, because real estate can be very lonely, and you know, having that person that you can fall back on. And he identified a very complementary skill set in me, which is you know, being able to tell people how to present their homes, my marketing background.
Yep.
We would just, you know, we were a great team.
How long did you two work together?
5, 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
And again, like another part of the real estate journey where we had to navigate John doing less and bringing someone else in, and, you know, like running it as a business when there's, you know, lots of awkward things to talk about, you know, just.
As in his succession and how that's going to look.
Yeah.
Wow.
And also, you know, there came a point where I'd bring in a lot more listings than him.
Yep.
But he has always been my biggest supporter too. He's always got my back. And so that transition became inevitable and very easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. And
Yeah.
that's the benefit of two good people. You mentioned you tackled things up front.
Yeah.
You talked about the hard stuff,
Yeah.
which is probably who you are.
Yes.
So you mentioned to me that you are very straight, you're very real, you don't sugarcoat it, you don't lie, which I shouldn't
one
need
does.
to
Yeah.
point out.
Yeah.
But that's just who you are as a person, and you brought that through your business the whole way through.
Yeah, definitely. I think one trap that agents fall into is they're too scared to tell their vendors the truth.
Yeah.
And I call it selling hope. And we're not selling hope, we're selling property. And the only way you can do that is by telling people exactly how it is.
Yep.
You can be gentle with that feedback, but you should leave no doubt in their minds as to what it really is. And,
Yeah,
and that you're there to solve the problem.
Yeah.
You're not just giving them the bad news without a solution,
Yes.
but you're telling them exactly how it is.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think a lot of agents feel like I'm actually being unkind by telling you this thing that you don't want to hear. But
Yeah.
when in fact that's what they've been engaged to do as a professional, like you say, to get the job done. You've got to get the property sold. That's
Yep.
the number one
Yep.
remit. The price is secondary to actually getting the people moved on with their next chapter in their life.
It's about proving price, and you know that the only way you do that is through competition.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like, we'll prove what the price is. No one can tell you what the house is worth, but the process will tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to go back quickly.
Yeah.
You 9 years in real estate. You know, we know you had children, but just talk about, you know, you went to university. You grew up in Wellington. You've very, very well travelled. You probably weren't destined for real estate when you were a school leaver, and you know, just talk about that period.
Yeah. So yeah, went to university. Didn't even really know what I wanted to do. Spent 4 years getting 2 degrees, and didn't even have an idea really what even marketing was. What is marketing? And my other degree was in arts, but came out the other side and landed a graduate role with BP, actually in their property team, which I was not expecting at all. And I kind of always had this view that I wanted to be in marketing. I'd studied in marketing, and, you know, being young, you're quite, you know, the grass is always greener, there's always something better. But, you know, they really looked after me. They moved me to Melbourne. I worked in the Melbourne team.
Wow.
Yeah, rolling out BP Connect. And
you were married at the time because you met your husband
no,
pre-university?
No, yeah, we met pre-university, but then we had a bit of a hiatus.
Okay. Yeah.
And then actually it was when I moved to Melbourne that we rekindled things, and we got married a few years later after we travelled.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So travelled not only to Melbourne, you went further afield than that.
Yeah. Well, we bought a long wheelbase Toyota Hiace, which had been like pretty illegally converted into a camper van. And yeah, we drove around Australia, which no one was doing. Everyone was in London and in Europe.
Yeah.
And then we came home, got a change of clothes, and went to Southeast Asia. And then we came home, got a change of clothes, and went to Canada and did a season there. And then we went to Nantucket Island and worked for the rich and famous.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then it was time to come home,
Yeah.
start a family,
Yeah.
and sort of lay some roots. And that's when you moved to Auckland.
Yes.
Yeah. So what initially took you to Auckland? That was your husband's work?
Yeah, my husband was there, and my brother had moved there.
Okay.
And my brother and I are very close.
Yep.
And so that just seemed like a good idea. It was hard being away from mum and dad, but eventually they moved to Auckland.
Yeah.
We recruited them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Excellent. So now 9 years in real estate, and we mentioned, you know, you surpassed your ambition of 10 sales pretty quickly. You've already dropped into the conversation that you really took a business mindset. I think what some of the people listening might not understand, if they're based in Australia, not in New Zealand, you don't get a base wage in New
No,
Zealand.
no.
So a lot of people come into it as a second career. They've got some finances behind them.
Yes.
So you really do have to take that business-minded approach
Yep.
because you're backing yourself in
Yes.
and investing in yourself.
Yeah. I think I was very lucky because my husband worked and I didn't have to sell.
Yeah.
And actually I still have that form about me. You know, like I don't have to sell the next property.
There's no desperation.
There's never been desperation. I've never done it for the money. I've
Yep.
literally done it because I love helping people and, you know, being the agent that I want to deal with. And so I think that took the pressure off because a lot of people meet agents and they think you just want to get paid.
Yeah.
And I can take that off the table pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
in a nice way.
Well, and
Yeah.
anyone you hear speak who is successful and doesn't have that desperation for the next listing, they always, you know, will say that it positively affects the listing presentation because
Totally.
you just come across with a completely different
Yeah.
approach and level of confidence. I'd love to talk about building a team because I
Yeah.
know teams in New Zealand, they're a big thing, but because of the contractor model, a lot of people didn't really invest in teams because it was like, well, I've got to bring someone in who's also backing themselves in.
Yeah.
Now we do have people paying sales associates a wage.
Yes.
You mentioned John
Yeah.
before.
Yes.
So you were co-agents
Yeah.
together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we managed how we split the business as that evolved and as John was kind of segueing
Yep.
out. And they are, you know, my team are all contractors. So
They are.
they're all contractors
Yeah, right.
apart from my administrator.
Okay.
She's an employee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how many in the team now?
I have 3 other salespeople that I work with. One of them's still on maternity leave. But the great thing about this, I always say to my guys, family first, life first, work last.
Yep.
So, but no matter what it is that they want to do, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
So Ella, she had her baby in February. She just has the bug. She just couldn't let it go for longer than 6 months. So
Okay.
we just put her on 1 listing, 2, and then I just say, how many can you cope with? And she's like, probably at capacity at 3, you know, because she's trying to balance very small children.
Yes.
And then Sarah and Leanne, my other sales team, and Lauren, who's our client care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd like to go back to this. You made the comment about being really competitive.
Yeah.
But real estate's a tough game for some people because the competitive nature of comparing yourself to your peers can eat people up.
Yeah.
How are they doing that? Why aren't I doing that? You don't compete so much with other agents. It's more about competing with yourself.
Totally. I am so competitive with myself. How can I be better? What can I do differently? I know a lot of agents, particularly the ones who are my main competitors, they're constantly copying what I'm doing. And I think it's really funny because I'll just evolve to the next thing. I'm
Yes.
very much in the forward view mirror. I'm
Yes.
not looking in the rear view mirror about what someone else is doing.
Yeah.
I want to create tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'd love you to go into the detail a bit more around, you know, what this competing with yourself means. Like, what is that? You said this continual self-improvement, just always getting better.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you've improved in the last 12 months?
I mean, I call my business the constant improvement program. And everyone's the same. And I encourage mistakes because we all learn from mistakes. And if you fess up, just deal with it, tell me, and we'll sort it out. I think in terms of tweaking what we're doing with our database, so tweaking, getting good buyers to properties early, nurturing those cash buyers because that's benefiting our vendors, getting them to properties faster.
Yep.
What else are we doing? We are managing our stock board better, really hammering into the heads of everyone, like, don't worry about what the vendor wants. We've got to just bring the market at whatever level.
And bring the interested parties to
Yeah.
the vendors and let them make a decision rather than
Yeah.
not even giving them that opportunity. I mean, that's one of the pieces of feedback we hear mostly when agents don't sell property. The vendors are like, I didn't even get an offer. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't even get a bad offer.
So we have a KPI, no listing withdrawn without an offer.
Yeah.
But also, I've had a few this year where I've said to the vendor, we haven't got the price right. We're going to withdraw it. I'm going to go back to relationships at NZME or, realestate.co or Trade Me, we're going to get a relaunch price. And we're going to relaunch it in 3 weeks, and we're going to do it the right way.
Okay.
Because we've got the appraisal wrong, and that stuffed everything up. But now we know that.
Yep.
Let's go back and do it again. And not one vendor has ever listed with another agent. They've
Wow.
all just been on. They know, they've believed, they've trusted, and we've got it done for them.
Because you've gone not with defensive, with like, hey, we made a mistake. We didn't get it right. We now have different information. This is what we need to do.
Yeah.
That's so good.
But people can see properties have been on the market a long time, and you do need to take it off and redo it and rest it. And it can be 3 weeks, it can be 6 months, whatever the time frame the vendor wants to work with. But I'm massively about, we are going to do this, and this is our go forward plan. We're always in the go forward mode.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You said that your team call you Chief Problem Solver, is that right?
Yeah.
So
I've got a little plaque on my desk.
Yeah.
Chief Problem Solving Officer.
So the attitude that you instill into your team is, they're all problems. We just got to solve them.
Yeah.
Like it's not too hard.
Yeah.
Let's brainstorm, and that's where you really you thrive being in that space.
Thrive. That is like the most complicated deals are my favorite.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they definitely are. I just did one this week, and the team were like, just independently messaging me like, how did you do that? That's like a unicorn.
You've just got a tenacious brain that just won't let it go.
Yeah.
I wanted to come back to auction, because you are a major auction advocate and leader in the auction space in New Zealand. But you mentioned that as that market did kind of correct, you lost a bit of form.
Yeah, it did. Last year, I started pandering to the first home buyers because they weren't getting building inspections done and things like that. And then properties would sit, and I'm like, nah, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
And every single property goes to auction.
Right.
Because it forms a structure. Even though I probably know it's going to pass in, it gives us a structure to work with. Then we move to either a deadline sale with or without a price, depending on how the campaign's gone, or we do a deadline sale with a price.
Yeah, right.
And then they're sold. They're under contract and sold within 5 to 7 days.
It's so interesting, because what we see as agents stop doing auctions, and usually it's related to market conditions, not selling them on the day is one of the big deterrents, right? Especially if we've come through a boom and then it's like, oh, I don't like that feeling.
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself and your team strong through that? Like, we're going to go do this auction campaign, probably not going to sell on the day, but we're going to do it anyway. How do you justify that to the team?
So one thing that is all of our KPIs is we have to get conditional buyers to the room on auction day.
Okay.
So we are constantly chasing momentum. Don't let it fall flat for 1 second. Get that buyer there. Before the auction, ring them, ask them what the terms of their offer are. We can't obviously get the price. We pre-draft it. We say, do you want to send this to your lawyer? We are ready to go with the next step immediately.
Okay. So when you've got the vendor, okay, we maybe didn't sell it. The vendor was ready to take this price. Okay, we now have a party who we can do the deal. Excellent. That's so good.
Or we can start the chain of a multi-offer. It's a very rare occasion that I'll present an offer without another one.
Yeah, okay.
At any level.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I'd love to come back to the work-life balance piece.
Yeah.
That is really hard.
Yeah.
What does it look like? So what does a work week look like? How many holidays are you taking? How do you prioritize? You've got sporty girls, sporty children. How do you fit all that stuff in?
It's very organized.
Okay.
And I have a very supportive husband.
Okay.
We don't do open homes on Saturdays.
Okay.
We only do Sundays.
Okay.
About maybe 4 years ago, 3 years ago, or maybe it was over COVID, I can't exactly remember. I was like, I'm not going out anymore at night. I want to be home by 6. So no more going out. We have DocuSign, we have virtual meetings. There is no reason for me to go out.
Okay. So most of your appraisals are done?
Appraisals are face-to-face.
Yep.
But I also think if someone's selling their biggest asset, they will make the time to meet with you.
Yeah. Okay. So no meeting after 6 p.m.
Unless it's a really extraneous circumstance, because I am not a good person by 6 after a full day.
Yeah.
I also don't have my best.
Yes.
And I don't want to jeopardize an opportunity by going out when I'm feeling jaded. And and you have to dig deep, and Wednesday nights we have auctions. So so Saturdays are great. I don't have to put makeup on. I can wear activewear all day.
Yeah.
Don't have to really talk to anyone. No one really rings me on a Saturday.
Yep.
So it's actually a day for the whole team just
Yep.
to decompress a little bit.
Amazing.
Yeah. Sunday I do fill up. I fill it up with appraisals, listing presentations, and opens.
Full work day.
Full work day.
Yep.
And yeah, then the week is very structured. My girls both row. So in the last, few months, we, as a household, we are normally in bed by 8:45 and we're normally
I
asleep
feel
by
you.
9
Yep.
because my
Early
alarm is
mornings.
off before 5.
Yeah.
And
And the girls would be out early as well on the water.
we're taking them, we're
Yeah.
dropping them off.
Yeah.
So I'm not, and then I come home and then I do my own exercise and they don't have their trainings at the same time
Of course.
either.
Yeah.
And theirs is 6 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes twice a day.
What a commitment.
Yeah. So, but I love it for them.
Mm.
And, we work hard to provide them all of the opportunities we can, and we just have to support it with being, time to do it as well. So,
And you've demonstrated to your marketplace that you are achieving great results. So you set the terms, you tell the clients family first,
yeah,
and they respect that.
totally.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I'd love to ask you if you could go back to Rachel, who was stepping into real estate 9 years ago. Would you give yourself advice to do anything differently?
Not really. I mean, to be honest, moving offices was probably the best bit of advice I ever gave myself.
Yeah.
Because I was going to get out of real estate, being in
Wow.
an unsupportive environment. Probably the one bit of advice I'd give myself is if you are getting into real estate or you're in real estate and looking to move, talk to lots of people, talk
Yeah.
to lots. I mean,
It's a two-way interview, isn't it?
yeah, it is. And, I chose the worst deal on commission splits, but I chose the place I believed would be the best culture fit for me. Again, real estate's not about money. I want to be happy where I work. I want to be in an environment that's really supportive. And Jared, who's our principal, we have this joke about any idea is not a no, it's a yes and. And so we're always building on all the ideas and just being in an environment where it's not cutthroat. We're not walking over the next person for the next deal, where we can support the younger ones coming through. Any one of them could come and ask me for help.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we're over capacity for the team, we'll put one of the others on. So they get a learning experience as well. So,
Yeah.
and I love that. I love that.
What you've said is so profound then. Like, you nearly left the industry.
Yeah.
Nearly left the industry because you were in a bad environment
Yeah.
and how damaging that can be. And you also made the comment, I took the worst commission split. The reality is you would be earning a lot less money
Totally.
if you were in the wrong environment that might have paid you an extra 10% or whatever the
Yeah.
difference was. I think that is such great advice
Yeah.
to make sure you do your research,
Yeah,
find the right environment for you. And that's the
Totally.
good thing about real estate, right? There's a flavour for everybody.
absolutely.
We're all different.
We're all different, and one way is not the right way. You'll find the right fit for you, but I would, that's the advice I'd give. Find that environment that you feel is the right one for you. Not because it's the flashiest or the biggest or the most successful or whatever it is that is important to you. Identify what that is.
Yeah, amazing. And last question, what is something that we might not know about Rachel Berry?
Well, when I worked on Nantucket Island for the Rich and Famous, people would just fly in their brand new Learjets, popping the Cristal,
Wow.
Macaulay Culkin,
Wow.
all the celebrities.
Home Alone.
Yeah.
Not Home Alone
Yeah.
that day.
And it was interesting though, because rich people aren't always the nicest people, and we were really miserable there. And one night, in the middle of the night, we did a runner and hit the ground and went to New York. And then we were a
Escaped
bit worried that
Nantucket
we'd get stopped at customs, but anyway, we didn't. And but yeah,
It's not all about money.
it's not all about money.
Rachel, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for taking time to share your insights today.
Thanks for having me.